So you say that you have a hostile environment at work. Let's define what that is, how you deal with it, how you document it, and what happens next if you're dealing with this at your employer and you don't know what to do. So start off, let's give a definition here. I'll pull myself down. A hostile work environment is pervasive and continual, meaning it does not stop after you tell someone that they have made you uncomfortable. Just the same standard if you're looking at a harassment or a discrimination complaint where you tell someone that something that they are doing is making you uncomfortable and you're asking them to stop. So nobody should be treated like this in the first place at work, but there's also a duty on the person because let's be honest, guys, it's 2024. Anybody can be offended by anything. So unless it's something really egregious, you have the responsibility to tell the person that bothers me and I want you to stop. Now, if they continue it, it can rise to the level of being a hostile work environment if it means that you can't even do your job on a daily basis because the person is continually interrupting your duties with belligerent or damaging behavior that prevents you from being able to work. It can also be a hostile work environment if the behavior goes against any of these protected classes from the government, like your race, your gender, your age, your religion, your orientation. There's a whole list of things that are protected by the government that says you cannot be talking about people to these things at work without there being repercussions for you if that person finds that discussion offensive, okay? So that's the initial definition for a hostile work environment. Now, let's talk about what a hostile work environment is not. It is not your manager coming over and telling you what to do. That's literally why they're called a manager. They're supposed to manage people. That's not you being disciplined as an employee for not performing. As somebody that's been in HR for more than 20 years, I get people that come in and say, you know, Bob, he really has been riding me about getting my work done, and he's always saying I'm not getting done. It's like a hostile work environment. And I say, that's literally Bob's job, is to tell you what to do and make sure you do it. That's not a hostile work environment. Now, writing somebody up, getting written up, does not make a hostile work environment for you. Or getting terminated doesn't mean that the environment was hostile to you. So hostile work environment doesn't have to do with your performance as an employee. It has someone being continually belligerent to you to a point where you cannot perform your duties on a regular basis. And you have told that person that this behavior is not acceptable for you and that you don't want to be managed or dealt with in that manner. Okay, so now let's go forward to how do you handle it if you think you've got a hostile work environment? Well, the first thing is that having a whole bunch of discussions with your coworkers can actually be more damaging to you because it looks like triangulation and it looks like you're starting problems and that you're not addressing the issue the proper way. So the proper way to deal with what you think is a hostile work environment is to report it in writing to both the HR department and the employee's manager. And what does that look like? It looks something like this. Hello, this person's name and the Human Resources Department. The purpose of this email is to document that I believe that I'm experiencing a hostile work environment caused by Bob Smith due to these pervasive behaviors. I have asked Bob to stop repeatedly, but he has not, despite my objections. That's the first thing that has to be done, and it has to be done in writing. Don't just walk into HR's office. Don't just walk into their manager's office or your manager's office. You need to go and put it in writing so that it's documented. So that way, if the company just randomly gets rid of you, then you can say, hey, that's retaliation. That's not fair. You can't do that. Now, the other thing is that what's going to happen is this is not a one-off, because people will send this email and then a bunch of people just come over, start talking to them, phone calls, start talking to them, something happens on Teams, whatever. The point is that any follow-up discussion that's had, so if they call you in to have a meeting with HR or your manager or their manager, you're going to sit in there and you're going to tell them again what happened. And then it's important that you go back to your desk and you sit down, you send an email and say, thanks very much, HR and this person's manager, for this discussion today where A, B, and C were covered. I would expect that going forward, this is going to be dealt with and I won't be experiencing this type of behavior at work again. So again, both the initial and the follow-up have to be documented, guys. Okay, Now, this is where it's going to get weird and it's going to get hard for you and other people to accept. HR has to investigate by talking to all parties. Now, when I say it gets weird, I mean, I'll tell you from the HR side, this gets really weird, guys. I have people come in and complain about other people all the time. So my duty then is to sit down with the other person as well and say, what's going on here? Fill me in on what's going on. And sometimes the story I get is completely different. And sometimes the people that I talk to have receipts, be it text messages, be it Teams, be it emails, whatever, where the person that reported it was being hostile or inappropriate. So it can get really messy quickly. This is why before you report someone, it's really important you check yourself first and ask yourself, has my behavior been inappropriate in any way in these actions that I need to address so the other person can't come back and make what I'm bringing up look like it's a bunch of garbage? Now, if that's not the case and you've given a legitimate complaint, the other person will have time to be able to say, these are founded or unfounded complaints. HR will come back to that. And then if HR finds that there's a founded complaint, they will tell you, you've raised a legitimate complaint. We are going to deal with it on a disciplinary basis with that employee. Where it gets hard for people is they want to know what happened to Bob Smith that they reported. But HR also has to protect the employee's rights and confidentiality for the employee that you reported, be it manager, executive, whoever it happens to be. They also have to protect their confidentiality. So whatever disciplinary action, if they decide to take any, is not going to be something that you're privy to. So Bob might come back to work the next day and you're like, is Bob going to apologize to me? Is anything going to be done? Why is Bob still working here? You don't get to be privy to that information about Bob's employment. That's between Bob and HR and his manager. So this is where it gets frustrating for people and they're like, what the heck? Nothing happened. HR or the hiring manager or my manager didn't do anything. Well, they might have done something, but you don't get to have that information. So again, just to go back and go over it, you want to, first of all, tell the person if they're bothering you, what they're doing that's bothering you, and that you want it to stop so that you have done so. And if you need to do so because you're worried about it, do so in writing, in an email, okay? That's signed and dated and timed, okay? Then the next thing is that if they continue that behavior is to report it to your manager, HR, and their manager in writing. Then any follow-up conversations, you document them, post in writing. Then if there's some kind of apology or anything else that comes your way, that's great if you guys can work through it. If not, then you might just have to accept that you reported it and that the behavior stopped. And you can do your work without it having being a bad environment for you. But remember, companies are a whole body of people. And if you're at a company where somebody, like a single person, has this type of behavior and it bothers you guys, you should address it. If this behavior is pervasive in the place that you work, meaning there's a lot of this type of stuff going on, then if this is happening with multiple people at multiple levels in your organization, you are likely not going to be able to change this work culture just by making this one complaint. Or if you make this one complaint and things still don't start to change around you with multiple other people, that's your sign that you need to leave that employer, or that you need to start looking for another job so that you can leave that employer. You can't always change every company that you work for. I've been in that position, you've been in that position, everybody's been in that position. You've got companies with a really great culture, some are in the middle and some are terrible. And some are just terrible for different people for different reasons. Maybe it's just not the right fit for you at that company culturally. So then it takes it the responsibility to yourself to say, you know what, I think I'm ready to move on because this is not what's for me. So overall, this helps to explain what hostile workplace is, how you can deal with it, what you can expect from it. But overall, really, make your complaint, follow everything up in writing. And if you don't see things moving the right way for you in the future, protect your own mental health and your professional reputation and move to a place that is a better fit for you. Hope this helps, and I'll see you guys in the next one.